So let's close our eyes, and by closing our eyes, it gives us more of an opportunity to notice our internal mental space. You know, the function of the brain is to process info coming through the senses in order to act on it. But when we close our eyes, we're more aware of our internal space, the thoughts, the movements of mind, any emotions, even the texture of mind. And we don't have the opportunity to do this. In school, it's always about looking outside and assuming whatever we experience is true, is real. And the focus is always on the outside, you know, what we infer to be outside. We won't get into philosophical discussions about reality, you know, idealism or things like that. But here we have an opportunity to notice our internal space, and we're changing perspectives in the sense of, rather than assuming that all these thoughts, emotions, memories are us, are me, we're observing them. And by observing them, we don't identify with them. And then when we don't identify with them, then we're free from them. So we can put that into practice. So notice right away when you're noticing, for instance, when you close your eyes, be curious and interested in what you notice. You could notice sounds. And by noticing sounds, you automatically infer that there's a sound out there in the world out there. There may be a perception, like it's a plane, you know, or there could be birds, and you're noticing it's out there, which is separate from self. But when it comes to thoughts or memories, people automatically assume they're my memories, they're my thoughts. And that's why they stay. But even the birds out there, the reason why we tend to ignore the birds eventually is because they're not mine, they're not us. So here, during this whole practice of meditation, we're allowing, through stillness, more and more awareness. And as we're quiet, and as the mind stills, we become more aware of our internal space. Deeper layers of our awareness, they kind of open up. And then through this process of not identifying with them, not wanting to change it, not controlling it, not following the stories, by releasing that grasping or identification with it, it's like not mine. You just leave it be. You don't try to mess around with the thoughts, with the memories. They soon vanish. And then you unveil some more subtle aspects of awareness, and that feels better. It feels more at peace. People pay lots of money to feel at peace. They try to escape, go to holidays, massages, this or that. And here, through this practice of being with the mind, not interfering, we get that even deeper layers of relief and peace. That's another way of looking at this whole practice. And I never, ever expect many people to practice, to do this, because it goes against the grain. So this is so fortunate. If there's gratitude that comes up, that's a wholesome state, because that allows the mind to be still. And when the mind is still, it sees more clearly. And we sit here. And just stay with whatever comes. Noticing what comes up in your awareness. Recognizing that these conscious experiences are all different. sounds are very different, to perhaps heat. We've had some more heat recently. What does heat feel like? And notice also the attitude of mind that you're bringing to this sit. And that too is conditioned. You know, it's not you. It changes every day. You may have a different mood, a different attitude. Sometimes if you persist with a certain attitude, it becomes part of the personality, but that too can change. There's people with multiple personality disorders. That personality can change. So notice also the attitude that you bring to this sitting or to this moment. Is it like a tight one? Is it a relaxed kind of perception? Is it a joyful one? And whatever you notice, then you have the power in perception to choose to cultivate it, meaning to notice it, recognize that it's wholesome, it's good, and you stay with it. Or you recognize this isn't useful, and then you leave it alone. And by not feeding it with your attention and interest, it fades away. So for instance, if you notice I have so much joy and inspiration and gladness to have this opportunity to sit and to share with like-minded people. And this is wholesome, so I'll notice it and I'll abide in it because it's conducive and it's useful for a peaceful, freeing state. You know, it's a useful state. It leads to peace, to stillness. The mind feels content. But if, for instance, there is a tightness, maybe a criticism or a little bit of grumpiness, you notice it and it's okay. It's just the way it is. It's a result of cause and effect. Or tiredness. It's a result of cause and effect. But if we notice it's not useful for your goal, and your goal is, there's a goal, there is a direction of inner freedom and peace that you feel within. And you only know it by feeling it, and only you have access to it. Nobody else can tell and can detect. We feel that within. So if you notice a little tightness or some tired, maybe just dullness, not interest, or whatever, recognize it's as a result of cause and effect. It's not permanently part of you. It's caused, conditioned. And just give some kindness to it. Let it be. Because with that attitude of letting it be in kindness, you're not feeding it. And then it'll vanish. It'll change. It's worth bringing up also that there's many different meditation methods. And there's no right method or wrong method. It's whatever helps you, leads you to that freedom, peace, and it depends what you're starting with. So for instance, if your mind has some negativity in it, which is stopping you from being free, the only person that really suffers is oneself, then you can practice those heart-based meditation, like softening the heart, spreading kindness and friendliness, abiding in a sense of love and friendliness. And then you benefit right away. You have that softness of mind which you're abiding in. And you benefit right away. If the mind is if it's moving a lot, you can do mindfulness of breathing. So it's wherever you're at, you notice what tool you need. Like a carpenter first uses a certain tool for certain results. So you notice where your mind's at and what you need. But that the mind will know through practice. So I'll just generally go through the same-ish methods, because they always tend to roughly allow the mind to be still. Noticing your feet, any sensations in your feet. And having that clear decision when you start the meditation practice that this is a time to develop the mind and to choose inner silence. Deliberately choose to enjoy a mind that doesn't react, that doesn't respond or plan or think. And deliberately enjoy a sense of inner spaciousness, inner silence. We need to decide that in the beginning. Otherwise, the mind will just sit and waste time. The body could be sitting, but the mind would be just thinking and like usual. So there has to be that decision in the beginning. And as we instruct our mindfulness through the body scan, the job is we'll be aware of our toes and then our heels, noticing the sensation of our heels. And through this process, the mind will move less and less. It'll pick up thoughts of past, future, delighting in ideas, less and less. And we're deliberately choosing to delight in letting go and inner stillness and silence. And we're using this method of scanning the body in the beginning. So noticing the ankles, and in the same way as all these sounds, the wind is not yours. So they're not a problem. They're none of your business. In the same way, these sensations, they're not yours. They're none of your problem. They're none of your business. The thoughts that come into the mind, they're none of your business. They're not yours. They're not your problem. It's not your job to get rid of thoughts or to indulge in thoughts. They're just like the wind. They're none of your business. So what a relief. You have nothing to do. The little me, the ego, can sit back and is on holiday. And we just need to maintain that clarity, that attitude. And by maintaining this clarity and attitude, the mind then changes all by itself through practice. So we're using the mindfulness of the body as an anchor so we can catch ourselves, whether we got caught up in I making and me making and this is my thoughts and my future and blah blah, more and more suffering. We're giving ourselves not only permission and the opportunity, but the choice to be free from all that. And being aware of our ankles, and going up the calf, with patience. We can't make the meditation happen. It's by stopping, allowing things to be, that the mind becomes still and opens up. Going up the thighs, noticing the sensations, the pressure of the thighs against the chair. And it's a very indifferent sensation to the feet and to the ankles and the knees. They're all different qualitative feels to it. And being aware of the hips, and the tummy area. Going up the spine. Being aware of the shoulders. You may notice in this area the breathing. Remember not to identify with it, leave it alone. If awareness of the breathing becomes uncomfortable, it's only because the mind identifies with it and tries to control it. And you can't not identify through a will, because that's coming from more ego. It's just a delicate art through practice of allowing things to be, stillness of the mind. Going up the spine, around the neck, the jaw. Being aware around the eyes, the forehead. Around the head area. Here, maintain that awareness while activities subside. So as mental activities subside, keep that knowing aspect. And what are you knowing? Know without reacting. There could be knowing of the birds. There could be knowing of the breeze against your clothes and your arm. And not only knowing that, notice the condition, the texture the mind is in. How's the mind responding to the birds, to the breeze? Is there a liking? Is there a not liking? Is there a wanting more? Is there a not wanting? Notice how that mind can automatically react to whatever it senses. And bringing that awareness is kind of like pulling the rug under this whole process. It's like adding water to a bonfire. It's allowing the process to slow down, to stop. And it's important for that mindfulness to keep that non-reactive awareness. It's important to enjoy this process. And the enjoyment is very subtle because normally we enjoy ice cream, cake, but here we're enjoying relief, peace. We're actually enjoying a different type of subtle happiness, and that's the happiness of letting go, renunciation, being free. These are all words, but they're pointing to a subtle happiness, and this one is critical. It's important. Without this whole path of stillness won't be able to grow. The meditation just won't happen because the mind will then ultimately want to indulge in some more cake and thoughts and movies or whatever. So it's very, very important that when we're meditating, and it's not only observing sensations, observing the breathing, but noticing also not only how your mind is reacting, but how does it feel like, that underlying subtle relief and happiness that arises when you're no longer identifying, grasping, wanting, when that reactive part of the mind subsides. It gives a sense of relief. Tap into that and allow it to stay. Allow it to be there always when the mind is aware. It may be too subtle to be the sole object of your awareness. Later on in other types of meditations it is. We were exploring those emptiness practices. But at the beginning it's too subtle. So we allow it to be at the background and we can continue our body scan. But keep kind of a tap on that. Keep like a pulse on it. You keep that awareness of that subtle contentment. These are all words that are pointing to that feeling of internal freedom. And this eventually grows and it changes, it becomes deeper, stronger. It allows us to become more resilient and independent of what happens around us. You may notice the breathing. So there's mindfulness and awareness. And you may notice the breathing. But how does the breathing appear to you? How do you know the breathing? You know you're breathing in and you know you're breathing out. How's that experience? What makes you know you're breathing in and what makes you know you're breathing out? So you're just mindful of that breathing, but knowing it's in, knowing it's out. So you're not just knowing in, out. You're aware of the breathing, and the in and out is like a knowing on the side. But what the awareness is the awareness of the breathing in and awareness of breathing out, and be really interested and curious. If the mind gets a bit dull, then death contemplation, you can bring that in. That it's a certain fact for all of us. And if developing the mind is important, then it gives a sense of priority, and it gives rise to a little bit more wakefulness. And whatever comes into your mind, thoughts come with a feeling that they're yours, with a feeling of agency. But that feeling of, this is my thought, that itself is conditioned. You know, that could be manipulated in a lab in science, that feeling of ownership. So is it really yours? It's just conditioned. The same thoughts that we have today, 90% of them are the same as yesterday. And they're conditioned and caused by what happened during the week. That gives us a sense of space with the thoughts so that they don't continue. They're like the birds. They have their causes. You leave them alone. You don't try to shut the birds up, but you don't talk with the birds. They're part of nature. Same with the thoughts, emotions, memories, whatever, anything that you become aware of. It's not yours. You don't identify with it. And this non-identification allows it to cease because you're not feeding it with delusion. Just allow the stillness, breathing in. Know you're breathing out. If the mind needs something more tangible to be aware of, with a little bit of doing, just to maintain that awareness, to allow mindfulness to grow and deepen, you can say a word along with the breathing, such as breathing in peace, breathing out relax. With the heat, the mind may get dull. So if this death contemplation works for you, doesn't give rise to fear, but gives rise to a sense of alertness, then you can say, breathing in, I will die, breathing out, that's for sure. Whatever works for you. If having words is too much because the mind is still, you don't need the words. The words are like an anchor or a crutches. You may not need the crutches. And remember, awareness is of the breathing, because awareness of that breathing will change. It'll become more delightful through this process of stillness, through this stilling of mental formations. So we'll drop the words later, and awareness of the breathing will change by itself, become more joyful and light and delightful. You can say words such as counting along with the breathing, breathing in 1, breathing out 1, breathing in 2, breathing out 2, all the way to 10, and then back to 1. But that's as an aside. Always also with your mindfulness, notice, keep a pulse on how your mind is responding. Make sure that there's space between that sense of observing and the breathing. There's no like clinging or reacting. It's all content and kind. And noticing how that affects that whole wallpaper, that texture of the mind. And allow yourself to hang out in any sense of ease, relaxation. It's very important to notice that and allow that to be. Meditation, also the word is a translation of a Pali word, bhavana, which is mental development. And development means noticing things that are worthy of developing, worthy of keeping, allowing them to be, and noticing anything in your mind that's not worthy to be, and you don't feed it. Like in a garden, you have flowers, you water and fertilize and take care of those. But the weeds of your mind, rather than pulling them out, it doesn't work like that in the mind. You just notice that they're not yours, the weeds aren't yours, and then you leave them alone. And this is a magic garden. The weeds vanish all by themselves. And if anything comes up in your mind, why does it come up? Because there's this underlying view of this permanent self there. And then whenever there's a I, there's stuff that's mine and that's important. So it's bound to come up, these thoughts, these memories, maybe plans that you have, because there's a me in there, a little me, and my plans, and this is very, very important. So that comes up. And we need to be careful and remember not to be fooled. This is the time to choose deliberately to enjoy silence of mind. Not to busy ourselves up, not to delight in mental activity, because that never ends and it just leads to headaches and more of the same. We're deciding that this is a time of allowing our consciousness to deepen, develop, and contentment, peace, freedom, wisdom through this path of stillness. Just that memory that not now is enough. We never blame ourselves or talk with the mind, because that's just more of the same. Just, oh yeah, being aware of the breathing or whatever it is, the object that you have. If scanning through the body works for you, you can keep doing that. My mind's liking the breathing recently because I've been practicing those emptiness perceptions for a few months, and it just wants to go back to mindfulness of breathing. But everyone's going to be different. You see what works for you in more stillness, depth, peace, that contentment. Through this process, there's more internal joy that comes up. I mean, bliss does come up, but I don't, sometimes if you say it, the mind may want it, but it's not gained, it doesn't happen through wanting, it's by giving up wanting. So we focus on the process of this practice. So all there is in this whole world is just the breath, nothing to do, nowhere to go. The you is on holiday, you're fired, you don't have to work now. You're not needed. You don't have to be a dog owner or a partner or family member. We have no job during this period of sitting. The ego can be fired. It's not needed. Oh, what freedom, what peace. Finally, it's like you've been pushed and pulled your whole life. Do this, think that, want this, and now those chains are loosened and you can breathe. Notice that feeling of relief and stay with that because it deepens. Only aware of the breathing. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. Just allow the breathing, awareness of breathing. To be your only companion in this moment. Patience and courage. When thoughts come of the past and future, not now. Choose this empty silence of the mind. Notice the spaciousness and the stillness that's surrounding awareness of the breathing. Have an interest of awareness of the breathing, because that interest will allow the mind to develop all by itself, to deepen in stillness. And there comes a tipping point when it's very delightful and just still. Noticing, are you breathing in or are you breathing out? Being diligent. Having confidence or giving it a try that this process works. It's uncovering, scientists uncover different laws of physics, these mathematical principles, these constants of the universe, these interesting patterns. And here you're uncovering laws of the mind, truths of the mind, in this inner lab. It's an introspective approach here. You're not looking outside, you're looking within. And the truths are felt, not through instruments, but from your own conscious experience. And you know it's true, it has that taste of freedom. It's being interested, knowing you're breathing in, knowing you're breathing out. It becomes very, very subtle, but there's this beauty that remains in the mind, this disembodied beauty. And noticing any more clarity, that clarity of mind. This groundedness, unmovable, not shaken, because it's more apart. The mind has a Teflon quality, a non-stickness. If anything comes up, there's no ego there for it to cling on to. It's none of your business, the memories, the thoughts. They come up because of nature. You don't engage with them, and you don't try to get rid of them. And by that, you're not feeding them, so they fade by themselves. Only thing that you're interested in is knowing the breathing in, knowing the breathing out. Ever so subtly, you may not even distinguish the in-breath from the out-breath, but it's so lovely, so delightful. Mind becoming still, quiet, but beautiful, content, but delightful. Noticing these aspects and textures, qualities of the mind. Coming close to the end of the sit, notice, how does the mind feel? What is the qualities of the mind, particularly that sense of ease, like lessening of burdens, that feeling that when you've been carrying along heavy bags and then you just let go of them and there's that lightness, that ease of burdens, that lightness of mind, like noticing that, noticing the stillness in the mind too, which allows more clarity, and it gives you a sense of energy, gladness, contentment. And with that contentment, you don't need so much. And by not needing so much, we're less dependent on things. Like someone offers you like a chocolate cake with lots of sugar. Like, nah. So we're content. We're already fulfilled internally through this process of letting go. Letting go happens when we don't identify, allowing that sense of need to vanish. This whole process of stillness. And with these qualities of mind, appreciating and valuing them. Like, this is important because as we settle in on our value system, we recognize this is important. We're allowing this to be valuable, and that'll allow the mind to incline more towards stillness, allow the mind not to grasp on to things, not to get involved so much. Like, it's not worth it. I have kids, they get so upset and delighted by all these little things like toys or an aspect. It's so important. It's very, very important to them. But for us, it's not. It's petty. Because we have a different value system. And here we're recognizing the value, and that allows the mind to be more independent, less swayed by the world. Like a mountain more. And that comes through noticing these qualities of mind, dwelling, appreciating them, hanging out with them. And they're intrinsically, you recognize the worth. Like, this is worthwhile. If someone tells you, oh, that's not worthwhile, they can say whatever they want, but you know as a truth, there's treasures within. I'm being a bit like kitsch, but we taste, we recognize this is valuable. And that changes our value system, which then allows the mind to move less. So as we keep on meditating, you may have noticed you've been coming for a while, every week, and you practice at home. The mind is more stable. It doesn't throw you around like a hurricane and tornado. It's like there's less and less of these outflowings. There's changes that are happening. Well, it's good to spend some moments at the end of the sit to ingrain and to notice the changes within so that it could implement, kind of consolidate. This is valuable. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.